Video, we'll be talking about how to use ChatGPT to build user interfaces using React. I already assumed that you know what React is and you also know basic of JavaScript because we'll be making use of functions and all of that. So I'm not going to go into details of what React is and how JavaScript uses React and stuff like that. So I already assume that you have a knowledge in this. In this particular video, we are only interested in seeing how to use ChatGPT to build components with React. So first, I've got my React downloaded over here. You can see inside my front end folder, I have a couple of things inside there. You can see I have my asset blah 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 and blah, which means my React is already downloaded. So what I'm going to do is I need to start my React server. So because my React is inside a folder called full stack, I need to cd over to front end where React is actually installed. And then mind you, before you install your React, you should also make sure that you have Node downloaded in your PC. Now let me just go over to my terminal, which is below here, and then cd over to front end like this. I'll hit enter and I'll start it npm run dev, npm run. Oh, I already have dev like this. I'll hit enter. So let's just give it a moment to start. So you can see that my React server is up and running. So what I'm going to do next is to follow this particular URL. So I'll hold down my control key and I click the link below. So let's just give that a moment. It's going to actually load up in Chrome. It should have loaded up, or I don't know why it's taking some time, but I could still like copy this, open my Chrome. Now let's just give that a little time. So pick this particular link and then open this particular place. So what I'm going to do is to paste that link which I copied down to this particular place. So you can see that this guy is loaded up. You can see this is to show you that React is already installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Visual Studio Code, which is this place. I need to make this smaller a bit. Now I need to go over to my app.jsx, which is this place that is currently opened. Now I just need to clear this content, this whole content here, so that I can write my own component. Now, if you're interested in what component is just a JavaScript function that returns a JSX. You might be like, oh, what is a JSX? A JSX is a kind of HTML, a HTML syntax, but runs on JavaScript. So it's just like a HTML that runs on JavaScript. That's what a JSX is. So let's just go over and then make our component. So to make a component, like I said, component is just like a function. It's just a function that returns a JSX. So when you declare function, first of all, you give your function a name. In this case, this is called an app. And here, over here, I'm going to return JSX. So like this. So I could just like come over here, below here, I can say dot container, like this is just my class name, and I can hit enter. I can now say welcome to this app, and then this is the main application component. So what I'm going to do next is to actually export this particular component so that I can use it elsewhere. So what I'm going to do is to export this guy like this. So export default the name of that your component. So the name of my component here is what? App. So end it with semicolon. Now what I'm going to do next is let's go over to this particular place and then reload this particular browser. Obviously you can see welcome to the app, and this is the main application component. Now where is this guy coming from? Now let's go back to this particular place. You can see what I wrote here. appeared in the browser. But then let's go over to a particular important place to check where this particular component is being imported, because here if you expose a particular component, you actually need to import that component in a particular file for you to make use of it. So at this particular point, we just exported our app function. Now let's go to the main JSX to see the magic over there. So in this main.jsx, you can see on this particular line, on line 4, you can see I imported my app component from a file called what? app.jsx. So what does that mean? I'm actually importing this particular component from this particular file called app.jsx. So you can see, and I'm now trying to use that component right inside this place. And then look at the magic. Now, if I try to duplicate this component multiple times and then go over to the browser again and then chill for a moment, you can see I've got that particular component repeating itself. Why did this happen? That's because I simply duplicated app component in on this particular file. Now this is how React makes this guy so easy for us now to build user interfaces. Now other than repeating myself, writing this same thing over and over again, what I could just do is to just duplicate it as multiple times as needed, and it just continue to give me that same particular look. You understand? So what we are going to do next is that we're actually going to build a kind of a header, a main, and then a footer, just like a complete website using this particular method. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'll have to go back to my app.csx. I will highlight everything in this particular file, clear these guys, go to my index.css, highlight everything, clear everything here. And when I move down to this place, you can see that all styles have disappeared. Now, that's great. Now, what we are going to do next is that I have to come back to my source folder and I'm going to make a file, and I'm going to call it I don't know, maybe components or pages or whatever. So I'll just click on this source, click on this what's it called, folder again. I'll then give this a name. I can call it components like this. I'll hit enter. So right inside this components folder, that's where I'm going to make my header, my main, and then my footer. So, and I'll be using ChatGPT to generate that. So what I'm going to do here is inside this component, I'm going to make a file. Now, one thing you should also note here is that whenever you're making a component, the name must start in capital letter. So, for instance, I want to make a header component. I will say header, capital letter H dot JSX. JSX is the simple, is the syntax, or rather, it's just the extension. Now, why do you even use JSX for components? That's because it's just going to be a function that is going to return a JSX. That's why the extension has to be in JSX and not only in JS. But then if the component is just going to return only a JavaScript without JSX, now you don't really need to go with .jsx. I don't know if I'm making sense. Now, if that file, if that component is just going to have only JavaScript like arrays, objects, blah blah blah, that is not going to return a JSX, is not a must. You give the name of that particular extension in JSX. So with that being said, now let's make our header components. So just going to make a function, and I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it header like this. So I'll hit tab this way, and don't forget to export that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and then move over to my ChatGPT and then open this guy and then tell ChatGPT modify these components to make it an um actual component. Component. Next, so I'll give this, use my use my back stick, you know, paste that component and then close this with triple backstick and then hit enter and allow ChatGPT to do its work. So ChatGPT is already generating something for me. No, this is not what I want. I will say, please make that the header this way. So let's see what ChatGPT has in stock for us. Okay, ChatGPT just generated that. So what we're going to do is we'll copy this, replace that with what we've got here. You can see. So ChatGPT already made a CSS for us. So we are going to include this CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'll just have to copy this. So come down to this particular place, paste this, hit enter. Now go back to ChatGPT again to get my CSS. So I think this is the code here. Just need to copy this, come down to this place and paste this. So having done this, I think this is already looking good. Now we have our header and we'll have our header.css. Now let's go over to our app component and then try to import that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clear these things inside here. Now first, I need to import that my component. So up here, I will say imports header like this from component blah 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 and blah. So I'll hit this guy. Now I don't even need these parts. So like this, like this. So let's go over to this particular place. You can see I've got this simple thing over here. Now why is this duplicating? Now that's because right over here in our main.js, you can see that we duplicated this guy. So what am I going to do is just to get rid of the ones I'm not making use of. So when we then come back here, we then pause for a moment. You can see we have this. Now the thing here is I don't really like the header. I'm going to tell ChatGPT because sometimes ChatGPT can be dumb. Like you need to give it, like you just need to be explicit. Like you just need to make sure that you give it a command that it understands. So I'm just going to tell it that it should just use Bootstrap, to style this particular guy for me. So I will say, please use Bootstrap. So we hit enter. So excellent choice, blah blah blah, blah. So this guy he didn't generate a link for the bootstrap in the CDN. I'll say where is the CDN. So we hit enter like this. Good question. Blah blah blah. It knew and it didn't give us that particular CD, and you can see how tricky this guy can be sometimes. So I just need to grab that particular CDN, come down to this particular place, this index dots XML. I just need to paste that and then come back. You can see I already got this looking nice to an extent, but that's not really what I have in mind. So let's just go back to ChatGPT, scroll down, pick this guy. So pick this guy, come back to our header.jsx, replace this guy with this. Now come down to this particular place. It's telling us about something about Bootstrap, this particular line here that he does not that like he's not even seeing it. So that's because I did not actually install Bootstrap. So what do? We come down to this place and then get rid of this particular thing over here. So when we do that, come down here, you can see this is actually looking nice to an extent, but then let's just stick with this particular thing. Now come back to our main.jsx. Now turn this to fluid like this. Come back. We now have this um full width. So let's say also make the body and then the footer for us. So say make the main body of the site. Let's say make the main sections of the sites in a component. So let's see what it does for us. Header JSX, main JSX. So you can see it has generated some things for us. So what we just need to do is to also copy this particular code, come down here, make another file called main. Remember in capital letter main.jsx, hit enter, paste those things. In order for us not to get that error that we got before, we just need to get rid of this particular guy over here. So go over to our app.jsx and import main. See, import main from this particular place. Now down to this particular place, we'll need to use our components like this. So when we do that, come over here, you can see we've got this particular place looking good. It's looking good. So what we need to do next is to add a footer below here to make this, look like an actual website. So let's go ahead and make a footer. So we just go over to this place and then tell this guy make another um, component for the footer like this. We'll hit enter. Absolutely, it will just have to do it. It does not have choice, bro. So we just need to like scroll down, grab this code. Let's check what the name is, footer. Come down here, make another file here, call it footer dot what JSX this way, and then paste back our code. Now go over to app.jsx and then import that guy again. Import footer this way. So then come down here and then use it like this. So come back to this particular place, reload this particular guy. Whoa, it's giving us an error. Yeah, I forgot to change, to get rid of this particular line. I forgot. So then come down to the website. You can see that the error is gone, and now we've got a good looking user interface with the help of what, component. Now let's go back to the code. You can see how neat our app.jsx actually is. Now you can see we've just got three components: the header, the main, and the footer. Now, this is how React makes it so easy and organized for React. Now, imagine you now writing this with vanilla HTML and vanilla CSS. You can see that you're going to write a whole lot of things, but then with React, we just have to like break these things into components that we could just like attach, wherever we need them. So I'm going to see you guys